Hi, welcome to Christine's Corner. My guest is my friend and designer, Doreen Breen. Here on my right. Thank you. Hi, Doreen.
Hi, Christine.
She makes warrior clothing, and she has a website. And can you tell us what your website is?
Yep, it's www.soulthreadsdesign.com.
Can you tell us about the one that's here right now?
Sure.
Which warrior it is?
Yep, so this particular warrior is Harriet Tubman, and this is a very auspicious year because it is 200 years since Harriet Tubman was born. And especially since we're just coming out of Black History Month and going into Women's History Month, I think that she's the perfect warrior to be here with us tonight. So Harriet was a slave who escaped slavery in Maryland and escaped to Pennsylvania, and she wasn't satisfied with being free. She chose to repeatedly go back and free other slaves and bring them north. So over the course of her trips, which were done solo, she brought back almost 70 people that she freed from slavery. And she was part of the Underground Railway, and the laws changed. And so because the slave owners and plantation owners in the South had raised such a fuss that slaves were escaping north, the law was changed so that an escaped slave, if caught in the north, would be brought back to the South. And so at that point, the Underground Railway, the only safe place for them to go was to Canada. And so Harriet was taking people all the way up to northern New York, which is where she ultimately settled so that they could go over the Canadian border. But then during the Civil War, Harriet was a scout and a spy for the Confederate Army. She led an amazing mission where they actually freed over 700 people, men, women, and children. Harriet was known as Moses to her people. She was a tiny little woman who had some issues because she had been hit in the head by one of the owners. Was throwing something heavy at another slave who was trying to escape and hit Harriet in the head. And so she was in a coma for a while. But when she came out of that, she really believed that she was a servant of God and that it was her responsibility to free her people. Incredible woman. I mean, there are just so many stories about her. And believe it or not, the Underground Railway actually came through Connecticut when it was going further north. So there was a great article in Waterbury Republican last Saturday, the 27th of February, talking about Harriet Tubman and how in this year, 2022, to celebrate her 200-year anniversary, there will be celebrations all over the country, including a lot at her home up in New York State, and they're actually erecting a monument in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been 200 years.
Yes.
Even.
Yeah.
And she's freed 700?
During that mission with the military, they freed
Wow.
over 700. But she, on her own, I mean, just imagine this little tiny woman,
Right.
like, hiding out, going through the woods, following the riverbeds and everything,
The
and
animals.
fleeing individuals. Just incredible. So truly a warrior beyond belief. And so in this case, this particular piece, I started with an army jacket. Why not? I mean, she was a scout and a spy for the Confederate Army. So I started with an army jacket, and this actually came from an army surplus, military surplus store up in Providence, Rhode Island. And then it has beautiful mud cloth added to it, along with some of the cotton prints from Africa. And then I'm going to turn it on the back, and then what you will see is that I added a whole panel of mud cloth leather. So a lot of my designs, there's a big focus on the back because that's like a black blank canvas for me. So I have the opportunity to add so much more. And then what goes along with this, I'd like to show you. This is the article from the Republican American Accent section. So my granddaughter is 16, and she lives in Pelham, New York. And last year, 2021, was the first year that Juneteenth became a legal holiday. So my granddaughter's art teacher actually designed this T-shirt for Juneteenth. And so when Harriet walks in any kind of show, this is worn underneath the jacket. And so it's celebrating if Harriet was here today, she would very much be a part of Juneteenth. And then these are the kind of pants that the kids are wearing now. And so when I design something, it's not really what she would wear at the time, but what she would wear if she were here today and she was a little crazy like me. Yeah. So these pants have got mud cloth down the side, and great outfit. And then I was very fortunate to have met an artist in Hartford. Her studio is in Bloomfield. And because of COVID, she's a body painter. And because of COVID, she was no longer able to paint bodies. And so she took to painting hats. And so I asked her if she could design a Harriet hat for me. So you can
Very
see
nice.
her face and the cotton, because that's what she did as a slave. She picked the cotton.
Right.
So her name is Joy Monroe, and she's out of Bloomfield. And her business is called Soul for Art.
Let me see.
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome.
I don't know if anybody could see that. The painting is quite,
hand-painted.
quite good.
Yeah, very good. And then here, although it's combined with another outfit right now, but there is a necklace under here that is Harriet's. And so these pieces are from a vintage belt from Africa that I took apart. And because she was very spiritual and very religious, I actually added some crystals to it. So and it's bound on leather, so that was her necklace. So
how did you get started, and why on Warrior Woman?
It's sort of a long, complicated story, because I was thinking about it recently, and I started in, I come out of the corporate world, and as you know, where we met, I also worked for a number of years in domestic violence and sexual assault. Right. And so I never was a particularly creative person. However, I absolutely love textiles, always. And I like handcrafted textiles, and I very much like textiles from different cultures. So that was always a passion that was there while I worked in the corporate world. And so in 2018, I started exploring a little more, and I started doing some dyeing of fabrics and some painting on fabrics and that kind of thing, and realized I also knit, I crochet, I embroider, I weave. And so there was.
You do a lot.
Yeah, I'm not an expert at any of them, but I tend to not be able to focus on one thing. I like to dabble. And so,
I can see in your designs you have a mixture of everything. In
absolutely. And so what I discovered was that if I repurposed clothes, and my focus originally was on coats and jackets, if I repurposed them, I could embellish them with all of the things that I like, whether I did it myself by making it, or I purchased something vintage or from another artist, which is what I still do. And so I did that for a few years and really focused on selling. I actually, at one point, was in 5 different shops in Connecticut that I was selling my coats and jackets.
Wow.
And then, of course, I started to find that it wasn't as profitable or easy as I thought it would be, because I would design a coat or jacket and somebody would want it, but they'd want it in a different size or a different color. And because I was repurposing and using a lot of one-of-a-kind things to embellish it, that wasn't possible. And then in 2019, I became aware, as I said, I had worked in domestic violence and sexual assault, but so I've always been about empowering women. But in 2019, I suddenly became aware of that we had some young women who were starting to stand up and talk about and be active around some of the issues. And when I was thinking about them and about the warrior spirit that they had, I realized that we've always had warrior women. And I also believe that we all have a warrior woman inside of us. And so I started looking at warrior women. And so, so far, I have now designed 13 outfits that represent 13 different warrior women. And so Harriet Tubman.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
13, wow.
Yeah. And so Harriet Tubman was actually, I on this past Sunday, the 27th of February, I did a show at the Palace Theater in Waterbury.
Oh yes, let's hear
It was
about
called
the
Life in Color, Royalty. And so it was a fashion show that was also included music, spoken word, rap, and some dance. And it was a celebration of Black culture. And I was very fortunate to be invited to be part of it because a number of my warriors do represent Black culture.
Where was
And
this held?
so, yeah, and so Harriet was the opening of my show on Sunday. So,
Where
yeah.
was this show?
The show was at the Palace Theater in Waterbury.
Wow.
And it was in the Grand Ballroom, and for a show that
What an
was
honor.
themed on royalty, I cannot tell you there couldn't be a better place. The marble and the chandeliers, it was absolutely beautiful. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
And to showcase your clothing, your
Yes.
warrior clothing.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I'm inspired, by textiles. It's for me, it's really important to support artists, to support local, to be sustainable in an environment where fast fashion has taken over. We overconsume, we buy, and we throw away. We've become a very disposable society. And so for me, it's very important that, that everything I do is sustainable and that it's natural. And that I support other artists. And so in providing an opportunity for Joy and for my granddaughter's art teacher to be part of my exhibit was just fantastic.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have another warrior?
Yes, I do. So I'm gonna change out the jacket here. And while I'm doing this, you can absolutely see the beginning of the next outfit. So, when I look for warriors, I'm always looking for real women who existed. And so it is not about somebody who was part of a myth or who was a goddess, because I do like goddesses too. And so this particular outfit was created for Hatshepsut. And so let's do the tunic before we put the coat on.
Okay.
So Hatshepsut was from Egypt, and she was the 5th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of Egypt. So she was actually BC.
BC?
So many,
Wow.
many years ago. What's very different about her as a pharaoh is she was the only female pharaoh who had total power with both responsibilities and with title. So when we think about some of the other pharaohs, female pharaohs, they may have gotten that title through their husband or whatever. But in this case, Hatshepsut actually earned this title. incredible woman who renegotiated all the trade agreements for her country, brought incredible wealth back into Egypt, and she was absolutely famous for all of the building that she did. So she created great wealth for the 18th dynasty and did incredible building within Egypt. So in this case, what you see is this is actually a vintage piece that I purchased. And for vintage people out there, it's probably a nightmare that I then cut it up to make it different. Because in my case, I want it to look not like a costume, but something that she might wear if she were here today.
I see.
So I cut it.
Yeah.
But the original painting from the original designer is around the neck. And then, of course, it created this belt that's very much what you envision the pharaohs to have worn.
It's beautiful.
And then in the back, a beautiful train with details on the back here. So definitely when you think of royalty, you definitely think of the pharaohs. And then quickly, I will put this coat on. And so the interesting story here is that this coat is made from a tablecloth that was gifted to me from a friend who's
A tablecloth?
a tablecloth.
Wow.
Who this tablecloth was her grandmother's. And so, of course, the gold just completely was what I needed for this outfit. But yeah, this is a tablecloth that I
Wow.
repurposed into a kimono coat. And
Oh,
then
you would never know it.
this piece on the back was actually a necklace.
Wow. A necklace.
A necklace.
And you got it right in there.
Yep. And then, of course, to be a pharaoh, you need to have a crown. So in her case, hopefully it'll stay. No, maybe not. So she has a crown. And so
Here's a
for me, it's individual pieces. Like I'm not sure that you would wear the crown every day, but this coat is very wearable. To me, this if I take off this gold belt, this tunic is very wearable. You wear it with black leggings. So when I create things, it's not to look at them as a costume, but to look at them as the potential for wearing them, which is why on everything that I write up about myself, it's about wearable art. I want you to be able to wear it, and I want you to feel comfortable with it. And so for all my warriors, it's the accessories that put them over the top, but it's the accessories that make them incredible on the runway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you built a necklace inside
Yeah.
the back, and I see some here and up there
Yeah.
from the necklace too.
Yeah.
And imagine that it was a tablecloth.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's interesting when people give me things, I always say to them, you have to be okay with me cutting them up.
Yeah.
Because this is a very old tablecloth because it was my friend's grandmother's.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
quite old.
you have to be okay that I'm going to cut it up.
Right?
Yeah.
I'd be proud to use that you would use something like that.
Yeah.
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 How long have you been doing this?
So the Warrior Women I started in 2019. And then, of course, COVID hit. So I've done 13 so far. And all 13 of them showed at in Waterbury in February. And I actually have 9 more that I've chosen because for me it's really important that the warrior woman represents a woman who has stood up and made change for their country, for their people. And so I've 9 more that I've chosen and probably will be adding to that. 9
more besides the 13?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's quite imagination and creativity you have.
Yeah.
You combined all your artistry into one. You find a very imaginative way of containing all that. That's very nice.
Just have to find a better way of showcasing them and showing them. So like being with you tonight is like helpful to let people know what's going on.
I'm
know,
glad
what
that I
I'm up
could
to.
help you do that,
Yeah.
and please come back and show us more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe you can show us how you put them together.
Yeah.
That would probably take a while, but
It's interesting though, because to even dissect the pieces and where they came from and how I thought to put them together can be interesting. Yeah.
so what is your website again for people watching?
www.soul, S-O-U-L, threads with an S, design.com. And there is a page on there for Warrior Women, and then there is a page on there that has my regular upcycled designs.
Okay.
And based on what I did here, it is my plan for this summer to actually do a collection of kimono coats. So
Kimono
this is a kimono coat, very easy to wear. And so it's another way of my being able to use a lot of my different techniques that I enjoy in creating simple coats. And so I'll be creating short jackets, some this length and some in between.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Doreen.
Thank you for
my
having
friend,
me.
for coming, and yeah.
It's always fun to be with you.
Please watch at the end of the show, or the beginning, or however they may put it, is the show that Doreen was in, and with her models showcasing all her warrior woman clothing.
Yes.
And so keep watching. And thank you for tuning in to Christine's Corner. Love you.
Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head. I'm so proud of you. Just in case I had to run. I do what I can when I can, when I can for people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night. That's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people.
Could you tell everybody here real quick a little bit about the inspiration behind tonight's design? One time for the female warriors, you make us proud. Where can everybody find you after today?
I'm on Instagram with Warrior Women Rising because this is my passion now. I have 9 more warriors that I have selected to be the next 9. So I'm going to keep going.
Give one parting message to an aspiring designer out there, anybody that might want to get started.
Follow your heart and follow the spirit. As you can tell, my designs are very different from everyone else that is here today. But they are very special to me, and there's a story behind them. And it is much easier to design if there's a story.
Ladies and gentlemen, Doreen, thank you very much. Let's go. How you doing? You feeling all right? You feeling good?
The Saybrook Fish House in Canton has been serving fresh seafood, chicken, and steak entrees for 34 years, offering 3 cozy dining room settings, a newly renovated pub with craft beer, wine by the glass, specialty cocktails, and a lighter fare menu. Open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Reservations accepted for parties of 2 to 42, and gift certificates are also available. The Saybrook Fish House, nestled at the crossroads of Route 44, 202, and 179 in Canton.